Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to our Hive 1 evening about the minimum viable product. Today I, David Lütke-Sunderhaus, also the program director and participants and also vice president of Hive 1 Enschede, will be holding this evening about the minimum viable product. So let's jump right in. What actually is a minimum viable product? A minimum viable product is a version of a product with just enough features to be usable and purchasable by early customers who can then provide feedback for your future product. Now, here you can see this quite nicely on the example of a car. What does a car actually do? It provides you with a form of transportation, and that's basically it, right? You can buy it, and it provides you with a form of transportation, so why not digest it down? What's the next smaller step? I mean, I guess you could say one of those weird scooters that have a roof on it, but the next smaller step would be a motorcycle. But is a motorcycle really the most condensed version of it? No. There's the bicycle. There's also the scooter, and then there is even just the skateboard. You could technically even dilute this down to a wheelchair or even an office chair with just rolls under it. If you would count that as transportation, it does work. It's not the best kind of MVP, but it does work as the definition of it. Now, the reason why I've chosen this definition is because it's basically the best definition there is out there, and you can probably guess where it is from. Wikipedia. That brings me on to my next point, and that is goals. What are actually the goals of an MVP? Now, as you know now, the MVP, the minimum viable product, is the most condensed version, basically the easiest version of the solution that you want to provide. And one big goal of the MVP, because it is so condensed and so easy, is that you can launch it quickly. Now, launch it quickly doesn't just mean launch it quickly, it means launch something bad quickly. An MVP doesn't need to be particularly good, it doesn't need to be particularly bug-free in the sense of a program. It basically just means that it needs to be there, it doesn't need to be sophisticated, it can be made quick and dirty, so to speak. Second big goal is to basically get anyone to use the product. Not get everyone to use the product. There's a big difference between those two. But anyone that wants to have a solution to your product can use it. And is free to do so. And the best thing to do is actually to make your MVP free, so you can get as many people as possible. Many ideas actually end before there is a single user to have even tested it. It's a bit of a shame, to be honest, but there is this special thing that a lot of founders have on them, and that is that they have this vision to them, where they have this grand vision of, I want to be the next Facebook or the next Twitter or YouTube. That is a very nice idea, but those things didn't start as they are now. For example, funnily enough, Airbnb didn't even start with a map view, as we know it now. It basically defines Airbnb. But moving on to the next point is talk to users. So get anyone to use the product and talk to them. Use their feedback. Get every bit of information out of them that you can. Don't just sit on your idea and, not distribute it. Hell, if it wouldn't be Corona, stand on the side of the road and hand out flyers, or go talk to people. Just get as much feedback as you can. Every tiny little bit of feedback helps. Even if it's on a shitty little MVP. The full thing may take years and millions of dollars, especially when you would talk about something from Aber, for example. His idea would, in all honesty, take years to fully work out, as your vision probably is. But it may never be completely finished, but it may already very quickly be what the customer wants, what the problem to the solution is. The next point is hold the solution relatively loosely. Now, this basically means to change the solution, not what the solution is, but pivot the solution. There's a really nice example with a screwdriver. What does a screwdriver do? It doesn't even screw in screws all that nicely, but it does serve the purpose of screwing in screws. You could cook with it, right? Technically you could. That is a solution to a problem, but it is not the problem that we actually want to solve. What you want is to have your solution relatively fixed, but the way you attempt that solution to be loose and to be pivotable. So what you also want to do is to hold the customer very tightly so that you can talk to them, so that you can get feedback from them, and hold the solution loosely. For the next point, and I can't stress this enough, iterate. What you want is to improve on your solution. Not improve on the customer, not improve on the problem. You don't want to change any of those two. You want to change what is with your solution. You want to keep the problem and keep the customer and use a fixed and pivot the solution until it fits. Until the screwdriver fits in the little screw. Our next point is what is actually the right MVP. Now, what you want, or what most people want, is to make it lean. Most startups can start relatively fast, and I'm talking weeks here, not month, 3-4 weeks. Hell, I've known startups that can start within 3 or 4 days of the idea coming up, but that usually takes some rather experienced people. Now, what you want is to actually, make a schedule and, well, not shit it out, but press it out really, really well. You don't want it to be perfect, but it needs to serve the purpose. It can, for example, can already be a landing page in a spreadsheet. That's all you need. It technically serves the purpose of what you want to do, so it's an MVP. Oh, that was one too many, but doesn't matter. Second point is to limit function. You want to condense down what your initial user needs. You don't need to focus on all potential problems. You need to focus on one. What is your main problem that you want to solve, and how do you want to solve it? You will quite frequently run into problems with how to make your MVP work and how to actually get it out there. But that just means to cut something out, because you'll want to, like I said, launch quite quickly. Now the next part, the focus on few users, is a bit contradictory to what I just said in the earlier slides, but what I mean with the focus on few users is that not everybody fully gets your idea. There will be quite a few people who genuinely don't get what kind of problem you want to solve, who may not even have that problem. In the case of Dan, sorry. In the case of Dan, for example, not everybody is a vegan. That happens. Not everybody has the problem, but the few people that do understand it, they will value your solution quite heavily, and they will be the people that can give you the best feedback. So you want a small set of initial users for the biggest problem, and just ignore the rest. My last point on this slide is to create a base. It kind of morphs into something similar to what the previous point is. What you need is a small base of users that understand what your problem is, that can give you valuable feedback, and that can actually serve a purpose. So it's just a base. It's just something to build upon. When you build a house, first thing you build, well, I mean, it might just be the basement, but at this point, it's probably the foundation. You want it to be solid. You want to have something that you can actually build upon, to iterate upon. Don't feel like your MVP is too small. What you want is actually the smallest thing that you can get. And, like I said earlier, landing page in a spreadsheet is just enough. If it meets the requirements and is not overly complicated, it's exactly what you need. You don't need anything more. Now, in a few cases, I've already told this to Dan, you have a very heavy MVP. A heavy MVP is when you, for example, have heavy regulation. Keep in mind, this is an incredibly rare thing. A heavy MVP, think of Tesla, think of Hyperloop, think of basically everything Elon Musk does. PayPal is in the payment industry, has a whole lot of regulation. Tesla is building cars. I actually don't know, maybe the pharmaceutical industry, but basically don't know if any other industry has more regulations. There's Hyperloop and there is the Boring Company, which are both incredibly heavy MVPs, but not necessarily because of heavy regulation, but because the MVP itself is such a large project. Think of the Boring Company. Their MVP is a 12-kilometer long tunnel with 5 meters of diameter. Don't quote me on these numbers, I'm not entirely sure on it, but you can probably think what a heavy MVP is now. Now, this isn't necessarily that it is actually called a heavy MVP. This is basically a term I've stolen from a guy from YouTube. But this is basically what a heavy MVP is. It's for really ambitious or heavily regulated startups. This can also be hard on biotech. Like I already said, the pharmaceutical industry is incredibly heavily regulated. Just look at the corona vaccines. I mean, yes, you wouldn't really want to use a startup to create your corona vaccine, but even the rather large companies that make this, like BioNTech or Filter, they have problems bringing this on the market because it takes years usually to make a vaccine. You have to go through 3 different rounds of testing with thousands of subjects. Hard tech is what I just mentioned. SpaceX, for example, if you want to build rockets, how the hell are you going to make an MVP for a rocket? You're going to make a little thing with baking powder that just shoots in the air. That's not going to serve your purpose. At least it's not going to serve SpaceX's purpose, which is to shoot stuff into the sky, and I guess Elon Musk said to build some houses on Mars. But yeah, like I said, hard and biotech are 2 of the heaviest regulated markets where you can have your MVP. And the last thing is the larger projects. The Boring Company, the Hyperloop, the SpaceX. Why the hell am I just talking about Elon Musk? I honestly don't know, I just think the guy really likes heavy MVPs. But it's just something that is very, very close to what your actual product in the end is. This is where Dan comes in with his bakery products. They're a pretty much perfect mix between a heavy and a lean MVP. It's a very heavy MVP as it is very close to the finished product, but it's a very lean MVP because it doesn't take a lot of time to actually make it. Yes, it takes obviously time to make the dough to actually bake, but most of the actual baking time is passive. You just, I mean, if you if you want to, you can sit there in front of your oven and not do anything. But hell, who would want to do that? Bringing me to our next point. It's launching, and Dan actually made this quite right as well. It doesn't need to be a big thing. Now, does anyone here actually remember the launch of Facebook, or Google, or Airbnb, or Tesla for that matter? You don't. None of them had big press launches. Tesla had a launch, yes, but it wasn't that big. Not their MVP. Yes, a couple of weeks after their initial launch, they were on top again. They happily failed on that one. I mean, Jeremy Clarkson basically destroyed 2 of their initial Tesla Roadsters. But this is not something to be worried about when you talk about your MVP. It's not something that you really need as an MVP. You don't need this big party or this big press launch. It usually doesn't really pay off. Airbnb, for example, launched in 2008 with a simple landing page. Zalando, I'll actually talk about them in a bit more detail later. They started with a guy having a website, and every time an order came in, he ran down the stairs to the shoe shop, I guess opposite of his apartment, I think it was, bought the right pair in the right size, then sent it off like that. Barely made any money off of it. But it worked as an MVP. I hope this can help you better. So, what you want is to really launch small. Get just a very few users, but get their feedback and hold them very closely. What Dan is doing is basically he's doing everything right. If you want to have a look, he's got an Instagram page. It would be nice if you could put your Instagram handle in the chat, then the others can check you out. Because what he's doing is he's distributing his baked products for exposure on Instagram. I guess you're walking through the university and just handing it out to people, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going out and just giving samples,
Yeah,
trying to get
that's
for these clients and followers.
that's a brilliant way of launching. You don't need a lot, but you need to iterate and improve. You need to really work on stepping it up, basically. You want the first thing to be out like that, really quickly and not with a lot of effort. But what you want after that is what is the real work of a startup, to improve and work and work and work and work. This takes a lot of time, this takes a lot of effort, but this also takes a whole lot of heart behind your project. This is why passion for your project is so important. Again, spending time on big press launches can be spent better solving the customer's problem and improving on the honest solution. Solve the problem first and then do anything else afterwards. Now, I've got some examples from the field, and the first thing I'll actually talk about is Zappos.com. Now, Zappos.com is, well, their name is, I think, Portuguese for shoe? I know this is relatively similar to the Spanish word for shoe, but don't quote me on this. And you can probably already guess what this turned into. Does anyone want to have a guess on it? From the silence I get no. They're today Zalando, and this is how they started. Well, this is not even their first landing page. It's already a bit...
Seriously, Zappos is Zalando?
Yes, exactly. It's Zalando. Well,
Whoa.
not completely. Zappos got sold in
Okay.
the early 2000s or mid 2000s, and the founder just opened the same shop again, just called it Zalando, and was done with it. It's a pretty
Okay.
funny story if you actually want to read up on it. The founder really did the investors dirty on that one. But yeah, like I said, the owner just used to sell the shoe, see that he got a new order on his website. Like I said, this is not the first iteration of their website, but this is the earliest iteration I could find with the good old internet Wayback Machine. But he used to just run down to the nearest shoe store where he could get the shoe that was ordered and just send them off through mail. Nobody was any smarter from the outside. This is where a really nice phrase, fake it till you make it, comes in. I mean, hell, nobody knew that he was just buying them from the nearest shoe store. Everyone thought, hey, he has to have a nice big warehouse. No, it was just a landing page, and that was basically it. It was that easy. He just got the correct size, he just got the correct shoe and the correct color, obviously had a look that they were in alright condition, and then just sent it off with the post. Nobody was any wiser. The next one is a bit more interesting, because it's this, and I actually want you to have a look at this and see if you can figure out who this is. I guess you can, because you can quite literally read it, but have a look and see if you can tell me.
Like a renting service or something? Oh, wait, is it Airbnb?
Yes.
That...
Did you see the watermark in the bottom right?
No, not really.
Oh, good guess though. Yeah, I forgot to edit that one out. But yeah, it's
No,
Airbnb, Air Bed and Breakfast. They have a really nice founding story, because there were two friends who couldn't pay rent, so they just said, we'll just rent out 2 air mattresses on our floor to some random people on the internet. Well, random people on the internet is a bit of a far-fetch. They actually made their own website, which looked somewhat similar to this. Actually, it looked very similar to this, but this is, I think, their first landing page in 2008, and I think it looks very minimalistic. It doesn't look like Airbnb today at all. It doesn't have a map view at all. It didn't have anything like that. It didn't have payments. You had to arrange payment yourself with the actual owner of the of the property. So when you went there, you either had to pay in cash, or you could just literally rip the people off and just fuck off and be done with it. The person in charge of this website is actually quite nice as well. He was just part-time. He was just the third guy who was a roommate of the two before he went off to work. He was just part-time to take care of this random website that 2 of his former friends wanted to make. At first he wasn't even all too sold on the idea, but then the people actually coming to their house through their own website with those 2 air mattresses on the floor actually told them, hey, this is really nice. I think this is a really nice idea. And then they told them that they gave them feedback. Harkens back to the old get some users and get the feedback out of them. They got very few users, obviously, because this was 2008. It wasn't the early internet, but it's not like everybody had it. I can vividly remember still having my mum's old beige computer at that point. My god, those are some deep memories. But what I really want to say with this is, it doesn't matter what you launch with. I'm sure none of you actually can remember this, and the next example is even better for this, because it's a bit embarrassing. Because the next example is this one. Now here I actually want to have your guess. What is this? What does this look like? What's today's service, or today's more big entertainment area does this look like?
Well, like a YouTube or something?
Close, but no cigar.
Chat roulette? I don't know.
That is actually very close. but still not quite. Anyone else?
Loris asks, is it Twitch?
Yes. Yes, it is Twitch. Very good. Did you know it?
Loris. Loris knew,
Oh,
probably.
that's nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's Twitch TV. It's completely correct. Now, the owners of Twitch TV was actually not the current owner, but was previously Justin.tv, Twitch TV. What Justin.tv is was basically just an online reality show. There was just one channel, there was just one chat, nothing else, no emotes apart from the usual, smiley faces and all that shebang. But it was just this one guy, and whatever they decided to show, I mean, you can see actually on up here on his cap, he has a little webcam. It was this, I don't know, I think the people back then would be lucky to have 720p. It was absolutely janky. And I actually remember not watching this, but watching an old video of this, and it looked absolutely terrible. But you can guess where I'm going. This looks vaguely like Twitch, but it only has one channel. It doesn't have, the chat in the right place. It doesn't have any big streamer. There was no Shroud or Ninja. It was just Justin, and there was no video games, unless Justin obviously decided to play some video games and miraculously captured with his webcam. That was it. It was just an online reality TV show. And that actually brings me on to some tips and tricks. And we're actually somewhat getting to the end already. But my first tip here is to schedule everything and set a deadline. Deadline. Now, I think this is relatively self-explanatory, but when you say, I want to have this made in this amount of time, and actually, write that down, what you want to launch, you have a very strict idea of what you want to do. Think back to what I said earlier, to hold the solution, to hold the customer and the problem tightly, but the solution loosely. This also ties into that. It basically just means to have a very strong base, but to pivot around that, to not just fixate yourself on one thing, on one way to solve that problem, but also try around, try to iterate, try to get feedback. And you actually want to set a launch date because you want to be able to cut corners. What I mean with that is not quite as self-explanatory, but what I mean with that is that at some point you see that what you scheduled might not be completely achievable. So you want to cut the non-essential stuff. It's really easy to change something when it's not written down, when you basically just have it in the back of your head and just think, I'll change this tiny bit, and I'll change this tiny bit, and I'll change this tiny bit. And it just turns into, in the end, you'll have a completely morphed different idea. I personally had this problem quite strongly until I actually wrote it down. So some people might actually say, I would never use this, your initial idea, or I would never invest in this. God forbid actually listening to investors, because yes, investors are smart people, don't get me wrong, but they're very smart with their money. So they know what might be successful in the future if they see the right things on this. For example, look at the real life pendant to the Dragon's Den, the Shark Tank. You have so, of course, there are a lot of companies that fail from it, but you have so many companies coming on there not getting anything and afterwards being worth millions of dollars. There was this one guy who sold smiley sponges, I think, and he didn't actually get invested in. He just kind of was there. I mean, what do you think? It's a guy selling smiley sponges, and he got a deal with Walmart. I think it is now worth a couple of millions. So don't listen to what everybody thinks, but listen to your core audience and listen to what they have to what they have to say. And listening to feedback is important because it's your idea, and you'll never realize that you'll actually change it until you hear the feedback. And without writing down what you actually have and what you want, well, the problem is that a 3-week plan can very quickly become a 3-month plan or even longer. This goes back to the launch quickly part. You don't want this to be overly complicated. You don't want this to be, just another big project that in the end fails. No, you want it to launch quickly, small, and just sprinkle the tiniest bit on improvements. Just every week, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. That's how Airbnb. They didn't have payments. They didn't have a map view. They didn't have anything like that. I think they didn't even have a coherent messaging system in the beginning. It was feedback they got that they implemented time and time and time again. And now look at them. They're $1 billion company. My last tip is to not fall in love with your vision. It's very, very easy to fall in love with what you have or what you think is your initial idea. I personally did this. I'm not sure if I ever told you, but my idea was an anti-hangover drink. And I got so fixated on it that I didn't think about, what other things there are out there. Because there were certainly these kind of things on the market. And too many people actually fall in love with the thing they have in their head, their grand vision. They want to be the next, well, like I already said, they want to be the next YouTube, the next Twitter, the next Facebook. It's a big thing they have in their head, but everything starts small. Start with small steps. None of these big social media sites that I'm taking as random examples, because I honestly can't think of anything better, to be honest. None of these I lost what I wanted to say. None of the before seen products, that's what I wanted to say, look like they did. Like I said, Airbnb or hell, even Zalando, it's a completely different thing. It looks completely different. It's not blue anymore. It is orange, I think. So just one step after the other. It's a long march that you have to take if you want to be successful. But the first step is the most important. So put your time in, but also make it worth your time. Now this is where I actually want to go over some examples from the season. I'll start actually with Partigo, with Abel and Jesse, where for you a website with a list of clubs and their features is already enough. If I understand your idea correctly. And you asked a while ago if I knew any programmers. Is this correct? By the way.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the essential kind of. Yeah.
You could basically do this with a piece of paper and what's that website service that you see all the YouTube ads about lately? Spread? No. Can't think of it right now. You know how to create a website in 15 minutes, and you know they sponsor me, blah 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 blah, and I've made my whole nice website with that. You probably get what I mean. You can make this within an hour, probably. Give yourself a week, and you'll have something that actually looks quite nice. I personally made my landing page with one of those. I think mine was called Wix, wix.com. But there are better services out there, to be honest. And my next point is, yeah, Dan's Bakery. Dan, by the way, did you put your Instagram handle in the chat? Yes, you did.
Yeah, yeah.
Very nicely done. I need to
I
get...
also wanted to ask you guys some questions, if possible, considering further steps with bakery. Will we have time for it?
Yes, yes. I'll be done within 2 slides, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, like I already... I gave Dan already quite a lot of praise here, but Dan's MVP is simple bakery products. Doesn't even have to be anything fancy. It can be bread. And to be honest, what I've tasted of Dan tastes quite nice. Sometimes looks a bit odd, but tastes really nice, and it honestly feels good. And this is what an MVP really is. It's the most condensed version of what you need. And to come back to the earlier quote, launch something bad quickly. This is where I got it from. Michael Siebel. He's the founder of Q7, I think they're called. They're also a startup accelerator, but focused on San Francisco and the greater California region. Thank you for listening, and we'll have some time for questions. Would you like those questions to be recorded as well?
Yeah, if you like, if you want. Probably it can also be something important.
Okay, then go ahead, ask your questions.
Yeah, I have some questions considering the further steps. For quite a long time, I've been improving the MVP, and I've like looking back, I see that the initial idea concept has significantly changed to the less products and more concentration a lot. So there are a lot of iterations, and I decided to open up the business officially. So to make it legal and start off, although I don't have any sales, I think that uh, I'm kind of hesitating here. Kind of hesitating here if it is a wise step to open up a business and to pay 50 euros right now to open up a company and then set up officially on a food truck.
I think
So
we talked about this a bit earlier already. I've actually
yeah,
changed my mind a little bit about this. I've thought about this, especially last week a bit, because I suddenly saw a food truck out of my, or outside of my local Aldi. You've probably heard of that brand. And to be honest, yeah, I think it's a nice idea to have the food truck, especially now. But it is obviously a big investment that you need to take. It is something that you really need to think about, and that you should probably get more than just my opinion on. I'll actually ask some of the other board members what they think of it, but I think they'll just say the same as I. If you can, talk to some actual bakers, because there probably is a bakery near where you live. I mean, some actual bakers, not the supermarket kind of bakers. But actually talk to them and ask them, yeah, what it took to get the bakery running. Or if there is a food truck, for example, often in front of my local Albert Heijn, there is an actual food truck, with admittedly some not so nice food, mostly fish and deep fried stuff, but nonetheless it is a food truck. So you could actually just do that. Just ask questions, get some get some valuable feedback out of it. That's
Uh,
that's really all the feedback I can give you. I'm sorry.
yeah, what would also Matteo has helped me a lot, and he's also like supporting the idea a lot, both with sales and feedback. Yeah, also I do a lot of field work and just talking to people a lot. And even if I gather a lot of followers on Instagram, they continuously unfollow, and I don't understand why. Although I have some likes, I have some followers, enough to generate some sales, at least one, two a day from real customers. I don't have any, and I don't see. I don't really understand what is the key problem. What's the main problem? The content, probably the taste, or the outlook of the product, or something else.
Yeah. I guess I can't really give you much feedback on that since, well, for once, I'm not, as you might know, I'm not the most active person on social media. I'm actually pretty bad when it comes to marketing. I fucking hate it. But I guess what I can tell you is that sometimes it does look a bit weird, to be honest. This isn't supposed to be critique, or I guess it is supposed to be critique, but it's supposed to be decent critique. It still tastes very nice, everything I've tried so far of you. But I guess the only thing that I can actually say is try to get the feedback from the people that you actually sell to. So
Mhm.
I know the people that you give, in quotes, free food to. I'm not sure if you actually give out free food for the Instagram shoutouts. Um, yep, ask them, because they're basically your biggest focus group at the moment. And if you have sales through Instagram or through a web page or through anything, send them a personal message and ask them if they would want to give some feedback. If just say, hey, I'm this small bakery and I'm just starting out, and I would like to improve on what I am doing here. So could you give me some feedback? Could you give me, well, anything really? Any little drop of information is good.
Mhm.
I hope.
I would also say, Dan, that maybe instead of going straight for a food truck, maybe you can like hand make a like a small sorts of like, yeah, almost like a pantry or something that you can put on your bike or attach it to your bike, and that could be like a minimal viable, like an MVP for the yeah, for your product and the food truck, and then you can like get all the money that you make from that and kind of just build up from that. And then at that time as well, you can also build more traffic and you can build more following. So, it's almost like you're combating multiple things at a lower cost.
Mhm. Yeah, makes sense.
That's actually a pretty good point.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there are solutions for micro selling points, but yeah, I can do some research.
Um, do you know
And
these
also, I would,
woven baskets that you sometimes see
mm,
on bicycles or with basically older people just carry them around? They look
yeah,
really nice, and then if you just
yeah,
I don't know, tape that to your bicycle, you've got a
yeah,
perfectly Dutch solution.
or I've also seen those bikes that have like those kind of like wooden things on them, where
Oh
like,
yeah.
and even though that might be a little expensive, it's way cheaper than getting a whole on food truck. And if you don't have that like such a high level of sales right now, it's even, I would say it's even better because you could, like I said, you could use that to build up a following. And also, like, going back for like your Instagram followers, maybe you can even do like a referral program. For each person that refers and buys, you give them like one free bread. and that will keep them engaged, and it would also help you, just keep the following and grow the following.
That's a good point.
Mm.
That's a very good point, even. I quite like that idea,
Yeah,
Matteo.
because most of the issues is that once people try, it's like, oh, okay, and like, yeah, it tastes good, and then they go and follow you, but like, it's always hard to keep them engaged in the sense of like social media and the following. And like, if right now, like, for instance, Dan, right now you only have one main product, which is the chocolate bread, then yeah, if you would say to them like, look, the next person you're from, I'm gonna give you another one, it gives them an incentive to go out and look, or even whoever they come across, be like, hey, like, I tried this really good bread, you should try it as well. And in the back of their head, they're gonna know like, oh, like, I'm gonna be saving, I don't know, like €1, €2, whatever. I mean, not that much, but they're gonna be getting something free, and people always like free things.
Yeah. Probably
Free stuff is a big advantage, especially free food with students.
Yeah, but it doesn't work so far. I give out a lot of samples to students, and every follower comes because I gave actually the sample out. But yeah, still they
What-
just unfollow then or don't do anything. Like
That's a
fine.
shame. What you could also try is ask your local supermarket if there is a. You often see these sample things at Albert Heijn. If you could set up a little something there, or if they even have something there where you could put some samples and just I don't know, print out some cards to put your Instagram handle on it, or I think you can even get edible paper to just put it on the actual baked good, and then put those out, because you'll get thousands of people to, at least see it out of the corner of their eye. It might get interested. You get what I mean? I mean, yeah, I guess it's a bit of an investment to do something like this, because you'll need to bake a lot of stuff in advance to actually then put out as samples. But at the same time, you'll get a lot of very organic reach. A lot of people that have actually tried the product then, and then would maybe want to come back. Or if you have some organic store near to where you live. I know that there is one in Hengelo. I'm not sure about the name though. I'll look it up afterwards and I'll tell you. Then it might even be better to do it there, because you are especially focused on this group.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Write it down.
Is there anything else, maybe from Matteo or Abel or Loris?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we obviously cannot launch the app until
Until Corona has stopped.
yeah, that's the thing. Would you advise us to do this then? Because we have a lot of time right now to focus. We have a lot of features that we want to implement later on, also to keep the app fresh. We're thinking about working together with students, studentverenigingen, student groups, but we want to do all that later, just to have features in the future as well. But I think we can launch with a bit more features than just the main essentials, because we have a lot of time right now.
Yeah, that might not be, especially in your case, because you have a very peculiar case, because your industry is at the moment a bit fucked.
It's kind of dead,
Yeah. But when it actually starts up again, you can bet your ass that you're gonna have a whole lot of traffic.
Yeah, exactly. We actually like a week ago we did our first survey. We had
Hey, good on ya.
38 responses, and 90% of people said they actually are in sometimes in clubs where they think the music is bad and they would use an app. So 90%, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And they also said that they would use it. So that's some good news. And right now we want to go and interview some clubs in Enschede, Deventer, and Apeldoorn to see, because they are our main customers, because we want to offer them a premium subscription,
Mm.
way for them to stand out from the other clubs. But we were thinking, because also we spoke with the marketing during the marketing session, we were thinking that we can do like when Mark Rutte or anyone with a bit of authority says that the clubs are going to be open in like 7 days. We want to launch a big campaign, or big for our budget campaign on social media with some semi-big influencers if possible, and to do like a 7 day still party or something campaign.
Yeah, a
Because
little
there will
countdown.
be like a tsunami of hype for clubs for the party, so we can ride that wave. Because you mentioned that you don't have to launch big, but
If you're still speaking, then for some reason your uh, audio cut out.
okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I said that because the wave, the hype will be so big, and you said that we do not have to launch with the MVP. You do not have to launch big, but I think in our case it's different, right?
I wouldn't necessarily say you have to launch, because keep in mind the launch is the first iteration. You can already launch now and already get feedback, although there is not particularly much use for your service at the moment. You can already get feedback from the people that you would be serving. I'm not entirely sure who is actually going to be your customer, the clubs or the people going to the clubs, but I guess it's both to a certain degree. Mm, but
Yeah, it will
what
be
you
kind of
should,
the same as thuisbezorg, the food service that the restaurants are for them the main customer, and
Mhm.
the people using the app are like their way to actually get money from the restaurants. For us, it's the same, because we the use of the app are kind of like, well, they give our main customer, the clubs, a reason to pay us. So
yeah,
the clubs are our main
they're
customer.
basically your product.
Yeah, and we also want to offer a way for clubs to sell tickets through our app. So then
Mhm.
the users are kind of a customer, because they pay. Well, the clubs still pay then a small percentage of their revenue from the ticket sale. But yeah, the clubs are the main customer.
Yeah. So I guess Matteo also wants to say something because he just unmuted
Just
himself.
yeah.
But to make it quick, of what I want to say is, I would advise you to already launch fairly quickly with just a very few amount of features, and improve on them and iterate. Just keep improving, just keep making new
Okay.
features, and then when this period actually happens, when the clubs are actually open again, when people are allowed to party again, then you can have a really nice service already that is worked out, especially because of software, the bug issue that can sometimes happen. You already have some of your bugs worked out, and you already have some of your
Mhm.
problems worked out, and you already have your core solution. And I kind of lost myself again. Um, yeah, you already have what you want, and then you can build upon that your marketing campaign. That's the word. Your marketing
Yeah.
campaign. Matteo, now it's your turn. Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I was just gonna build up on what you were saying, which is that I think right now, if what you're trying to do is add features, I would honestly say that's the wrong way about going about it, because you're not gonna have any feedback, and therefore you're only taking from a design feature. and design can mean just functionality of the app and whatnot. You're only taking into consideration the designer's perspective. You're not really taking into consideration the user perspective. And thus, if you do less amount of functionalities just to see how your main core functions would work efficiently and effectively, I think it would actually, as Dave said, it would work out way better in the long run, because then you'll have a greater value proposition coming in when the clubs start opening up and whatnot. And so I think in the long run, it would allow your platform to work more efficiently, and it would be I would say you would gain you would lose less time in doing that, and you wouldn't spend so much money, as opposed to like throwing out all your functionalities at once, because who says that all the functionalities that you might want to throw in there are going to be relevant to the user? I mean, they may be relevant to you because that's what you think that the user may need, but in retrospect, the user may not actually need that. And so less functionalities for now, I would say, is better.
Yeah, that sounds definitely logical. Yeah, exactly like you said, that if we launch earlier, we can we can do the features in steps and see, are the first two features good? If not, we fix them. Then if it's good, then we implement other features. I think, like you said, it's way more logical than just throw in like 15 at once and realize that the half of them do not work.
For sure. And also, I would say it's important. I mean, if you can get feedback from your users, I think that's the most important thing. And also, think about feedback in the sense of how you can analyze that feedback and almost kind of find a trend in between whatever the feedback is, so that it can lead to a better optimization for your product. Because feedback in terms of this, I would say is like super important, because it's like almost like a user interface, user experience kind of thing. So and not exactly, like, not every club is going to be the same. Clubs are just different all around. So I would say almost kind of expand your concept to multiple clubs, then offer all different kinds of music, because in that sense, you can the greater data of information that you can get in terms of feedback could actually make your app better.
I fully agree with him in that part.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Anything else? Maybe Laura still wants to ask some questions, because he's been particularly quiet this evening. Although I'm just now seeing that he wrote something in the chat. I guess that was for Dan still. If nobody else has any questions.
Yeah, I got one, another one.
Oh, you got another one. Great.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
We had a few meetings with Vincent, the guy you referred to it. It went good, but you said the network evening will be soon. Is it possible for you to, ask a few other programmers, for us to keep our options open for the network evening?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
We'll try to get as many people to the network evening as possible. That's why we're trying to get a bit of marketing stuff going as well. But again, if you would like to invite someone to come with, then please do so. The network evening will be online, but there will be some breakout rooms that can be used in order to talk to the, I guess you could call them mentors, or the more experienced entrepreneurs. They're in private. So we'll ask around. We'll get as many people as we can, really, and I'll ask some of my programmer friends, so to speak. I actually talked to an old friend of mine who is quite good at web design, and I'm gonna ask him especially about your thing as well. But I didn't yet, because I kind of forgot about it. I'm sorry.
What happens? No problem.
But if that is everything, if nobody has any questions, then I will say have a good night. I will terminate the recording then, and basically say till next time.
Yes, thank you, man. You too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for participating so nicely. Goodbye.
Yeah, let's get to work. See you.
Well then,
Feel
have
free
fun
to
everyone.
order. That's baker now.
Well, I'm in Germany. I don't know if you can ship to there.
Uh, if you come to to Enschede.
I will be in
Very
Enschede
fun.
probably in about 2 weeks or so. Because I've got a
Yeah, I
test,
can
so
save some for you.
I'll come by and get some. Nice.
Yeah, no, I think I really improved the products from what it was like.